Hey, what's up, Logos American History students? Welcome to May 19th, 2020, day 39 of our stay at home, alone together, COVID-19 e-learning extravaganza. Welcome to a great Tuesday, and we are going to continue talking about what we started yesterday, which was the women's movement, the feminism. You know, they talk about multiple waves of feminism. I think we're on the third or fourth wave? Fourth wave, I think, of feminism. What does that mean, waves? Well, it's kind of like when we talked about the civil rights movement, right? The expansion of rights for African Americans in this country has a long history. If we go all the way back to the first African Americans brought to this country, right, against their will to be enslaved, and then we had, slavery, and then we had emancipation, right? But remember, emancipation happened a long time before we had civil rights, right? And we still are seeing, people working to expand and ensure the rights of African Americans. So we see these waves, and we see this gradual expansion, and that's the same thing that we see with feminism, right? In the early or late 1800s and early 1900s, we saw, like the first wave, which was women like Susan B. Anthony, who were the first feminists, and they were going out trying to gain, political rights for women, right? Women weren't allowed to vote, women weren't allowed to run for office, and so that's what this first wave of feminism, way back then, was trying to get, just to get them those rights, and they achieved that, right? But then, by the time what we're looking at right now, the 1960s rolls around, other feminists, other women come along and say, okay, well, we got the right to vote, we can run for office, but we still don't have equal rights. We still don't have gender equality. And so that's what this next wave of feminism that we're seeing during the 60s and 70s was fighting for. It was fighting for equal protections under the law for women, equal rights for women to men. And then we see, again, I'm not sure if we're on the fourth wave or the third wave. I think we're on the fourth wave now. So I guess the third wave would have been in the 90s, maybe. And then the fourth wave is what we're going through right now with the Me Too movement and this new extra emphasis on the Equal Rights Amendment. The Equal Rights Amendment is what we're talking about all day today. Our assignment, our question of the day, it's all ERA, Equal Rights Amendment. So what is the ERA? What is the Equal Rights Amendment? It's a big deal right now. There's a brand new show on TV or on Hulu about the Equal Rights Amendment and the fight to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. And this woman, Phyllis Schlafly, who I mentioned yesterday, who's from here, was from here. She passed away a few years ago. But let's take a look at what the ERA is all about and what we have on the agenda for today. If we go into our Blackbaud and we go into topics, we're in the 1960s, right? And we're working on a Chapter 23 Skills for Life assignment. Remember, these assignments, not a lot of reading, probably some more questions to answer, a little bit more writing, but less reading. But this skill for life that we're practicing today is recognizing bias, right? And with these skills for life, many of you are familiar with these. We read a couple passages, sometimes one, sometimes two, sometimes not even three. In this case, there's two short passages, passage A and passage B, and they're from 2 points of view, right? One point of view supporting ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment, and one against passage of the Equal Rights Amendment. And so you're going to read these, and then there's some questions to answer about practice the skill. And as always, you will find that assignment either over here in topics, or for active assignments, they're all under the assignments tab, Chapter 23 Skills for Life. We click on that, and there they are right there. There's your 4 questions. You can submit them online. You can submit them through the Google Forms, whichever you're more comfortable with. But the question is, what is the Equal Rights Amendment? What are we talking about? The ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment. Well, there's a few good sources of information to learn more about the Equal Rights Amendment. First of all, if you go back to assignments and we go under the question of the day, let's take a look at the question of the day. Question of the day is, do you think Missouri should ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, or the ERA? Why or why not? Do you think Missouri will ratify? Do you think Missouri will ratify the ERA? Why or why not? And we have the text of the Equal Rights Amendment right here. It's a very short amendment. It's a proposed amendment. It has not been ratified. It has not been added to the Constitution. But it could be if enough states ratified it. Maybe. But what does it say? This would be in the Constitution if it were ratified. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Right? That's it. That's all the wording. Some of the amendments are really long. That one's pretty short. That could be a good thing or a bad thing, and we'll talk about that. But when you look at this map, right, I showed you a map yesterday, and this is the new map. This is the most updated map. And if you look at this map, the green states are states that have ratified the Equal Rights Amendment. The white states are states that have not. Missouri is one of the white states that has not. But all the other green states, if you count them all up, if you add them all up, that's 38 states. That is over 3/4 of the states. That is the threshold. So why isn't it part of the Constitution? Well, a couple of things. First of all, when the amendment was proposed to the states, it was given 10 years. 10 years. They gave the states 10 years to get together, and each state had to ratify it or decide not to ratify it by the deadline, which was 10 years after it was proposed. And I think it was proposed in 72, and the deadline was 82. And so the deadline has obviously passed. So that's the first thing, right? Now, people have argued that Congress shouldn't have put a deadline on ratification, and that the Constitution doesn't say that there needs to be a deadline for ratification, that the states can take as long as they want to ratify amendments. It's just a matter of getting the 3/4 of the state. That would be something that the courts would have to decide. The other sticky argument is, so we had all these states ratify it, right? And the most recent state was Virginia. I mentioned Virginia. Virginia ratified it earlier this year, January of 2020. Virginia became the 38th state to ratify. Illinois in 2018 ratified it. Nevada in 2017. So those three states have been more recent. All these other states that are green on this map, they did it right away, early 70s. But then 5 of these states that are green took it back. They rescinded. They changed their mind. They said, nah, never mind, we don't ratify it. And I think Idaho was one of those, and there's 4 other states in there. Maybe one of the Dakotas. So, again, the argument that supporters of the ERA, supporters of ratification say is that you can't take it back. No take-backs, right? Idaho ratified it, so they're green, right? And we got 38 states ratified. Boom, put in the Constitution. It's not in the Constitution. And that's because, again, there are lots of legal arguments that need to be worked out. In the meantime, though, the question is, what's up with these white states? Why won't they ratify it? Why haven't they ratified it? And that's the question we're getting at. And so, you know, I mentioned this is a hot issue right now. There's a show that just came out on Hulu called Mrs. America. It's really good. It's about Phyllis Schlafly, and it's about her fight to stop ratification of the ERA. Let's see if we can watch a trailer here, just a quick trailer, just to see what it's about. It'll play, maybe. There we go.
On this revolution may take, there can be no turning back. The feminists think settled. They're not expecting a fight.
So this portrays all the women that we have seen in the chapter. Betty Friedan, Gloria Steinem, Shirley Chisholm, but then also Phyllis Schlafly.
But you should know, they're looking right up your skirt.
We need to mobilize as many of our women as we can.
She is not.
So you have the feminist movement, and then you have the counter-feminist movement led by Phyllis Schlafly.
Proud homemakers, nothing is going to
There's Shirley
change
Chisholm.
unless there is a public reckoning.
So it's pretty cool. I highly recommend it if you have Hulu. It's called Mrs. America. If you don't have Hulu and you want to learn more about the ERA, I have a playlist attached here, beginning with a retro report, a short mini documentary on Phyllis Schlafly and her fight to stop the ERA. So go ahead and watch those. Check it out. Answer the questions about the ERA and the practice the skills. And if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, let me know. Have a good one. Peace.